right, guys, welcome back to the Sportsverse podcast with Sunny and G. We got the NBA right now, just a couple days away from the end of the season here, and it's getting crazy. I think more so for wild cards.
Play-in, you just don't want to be in the
play-in guys.
But like you don't know what anybody's gonna be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the times you'd be like, "Oh, avoid the play-in," but if you end up as a 6th seed, you could end up facing the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
And a play-in team would get possibly Minnesota or OKC in the first rounds, right? So
Yeah.
which one would you rather have? But yeah, we got a lot to talk about this week. So you know what I want to start off with first? I'm going to start off with we can talk about this final week, but let's talk about the Giannis injury.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. Those guys were struggling already leading into that game. I think they lost like 3 straight games to the Toronto Raptors. They're on a 15-game losing streak. The Washington Wizards and the Memphis Grizzlies prior to that game. Doc Rivers, horrible coach, has been living off that one ring for God knows how long.
Horrible.
Right?
Have they still came out an explanation of why that other guy got fired?
He wasn't adjusting defensively, but like, the record was like 38-14 or something.
Isn't
like
that
that.
something you can fix still in-house?
I guess the issue is you picked the wrong coach to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? You fired Mike Budenholzer. You traded for, Damian Lillard. You gave up Drew, who ended up with the Boston Celtics, which I'll talk about. There's a point I got to talk about that too. And then, you know what? They went up and down all season. Middleton's been in and out of the lineup. One guy comes in, some other guy gets injured. And now they're holding off the Knicks for second place.
Yeah.
Giannis has got they said his Achilles is okay, but the strained calf, you never know what's going to look at Kevin Durant when he had his injury, right?
Yeah.
And I would look back and you look at previous injuries for Giannis. Earlier this game, he missed the game with Achilles tendonitis. He missed the game with a hamstring or calf injury, earlier in the season too. 1 game here, 1 game there. So it doesn't seem like this calf strain is totally out of the blue.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's kind of been around like for a while, but no one ever kind of picked it up because it's a one-off here. Guy injures his ankle, sprained ankle here, misses the game, and all of a sudden, boom, his Achilles on top of that because his ankle's been injured for so long too. But in this case, it looks like they avoid the strained calf. Best case scenario from the day of the injury would be about 13 days before the playoffs start.
Damn. From
From when he got hurt to when the playoffs are going to start, because you get the time off in between for the play-in, right? So, but yeah, dude, they were barely surviving in the first place. They gave up all those assets to get Damian Lillard, who, they're like, we got to work on the offense. Their defense is falling apart this year.
horrendous right now.
Jrue Holiday has been killing it. Just got signed to an extension too, right?
But I think with Giannis too, the thing with him, like those injuries now, I think are going to be really bothersome because he's not a shooter really. He has to use his legs to hit that paint, and when you're in the paint, you have to plant your feet. And the moment you plant, that's when either your weight's hitting that or a defender that's kind of crashing into you, their weight's hitting you. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough one.
And he's like,
guys.
To push off too, right? Like
Yeah.
you're always pushing
You're
off,
always.
and if you, like you said, he's gonna lack that explosiveness too, right? Depending on who comes back. I mean, he got injured last year in the first round, missed a bunch of games. One of the guys that I was listening to said the best case scenario. This is like Luka's injury. You remember Luka missed the first 2 games against the Utah Jazz a few years ago. Luckily, they won both and they finished them off. I think in 5-6 games, but. Best case scenario, that would put him about 2 weeks, depending on who they play in the first round. If they end up with a team like, say, Indiana, they might end up being able to take off a game, miss a game, maybe even 2 games, because even the first round, they usually sometimes have games where you get a couple days off in between, right? So that'll buy us some extra time. But if they play a team like, say, Philly in the first round, because Philly could end up being a 7th seed themselves. Yeah. That's a tough matchup for this, especially now with Embiid coming back. He's looking healthy. They were killing it before he got hurt, too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, in the 76ers case, you can only believe him really in the first round. Once you get in the second round, I'm not going to put much faith in the team because they have never gone past the second round with Embiid. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Like, are the Bucks done?
I wouldn't say they're fully done because they're lucky enough that they're getting in the playoffs. So at least they got that working towards them that, hey, we're getting to the playoffs. But now it's like, what are you going to be able to do in the playoffs? If Giannis isn't there, Middleton's not playing, you're going to be playing a lot of like deep guys that really you don't have many deep guys that are really going to be playing much time or have played much time. So I don't think they have a chance of making it far. Maybe they somehow squeeze out of the first round.
Yeah.
But then playing the second round, like look at some of those teams that are up there right now. Like how the fuck are you going to be able to compete against anybody that's Magic and above, basically?
Right.
Those are going to be really tough teams. And even if a team like the Heat make it to a second round or something, like there's just a lot of teams that they're not going to be able to play 7 games against and win, other than maybe the first round they get lucky, how you just said, they get the Pacers instead of the 76ers,
right.
which could happen.
Even the Heat, like Heat have been I was looking at some other numbers. So basically any team that has won or made the what do you call it, this the finals in the last like 20-25 years, none of them have finished worse than 20th in either offense or defense. And Miami Heat right this year are 21st in offense. Lakers are like pretty close to that margin themselves. Like they've never had a great offense in the regular season with LeBron anyways. They usually pick it up in the playoffs a little bit. And then of course, even when they won the bubble title, it was with defense. They had all the length. They had all these huge guys. They played defense. And even last year when they made it to the conference finals, it was their defense that carried them, not their offense, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, Atlanta Hawks, Bulls, same kind of team. Teams that are really good or bad on the one end. Pacers, another team, they're very poor defensively. I don't really, and Magic, like the Orlando Magic, I think are like bad offensively themselves, but they're great on defense, right? So you take out some of these teams that are really that I don't know if they're gonna be able to compete. And I know we say that about the Miami Heat, but the East in general just feels like blah.
Yeah.
Like
it's like last year.
Yeah.
I was looking at the records from last year to this year. There's such similar records on most, like there might be different teams here and there.
Yeah.
But overall, like the bottom teams are just bottom teams with under 500 record.
Yep.
And then the top teams, there's like the 3, 4, 5 maybe that are just studs that are going to be doing well.
Yep.
And it was the same last year. It was just like this last year, and Boston just ran through everyone.
They got to the finals and won 5 games, right? So, and even then, and that's the thing, Celtics right now, they seem to be kind of like just taking their foot off the gas a little bit. They're very, let's get to the playoffs, 100%. et cetera. But sit back dude, they had a game the other day where they shot 0 free throws.
Yeah.
And we talked about this in one of our earlier podcasts right now too, is that if you're a Celtics fan or you're, like 62 wins, that's great. But we've seen teams like with 68 wins get knocked out, or not 68, maybe like 60-ish wins. Remember when the Warriors
72 wins.
72, not the 72 wins. I'm talking about the more so like, remember the Warriors knocked out the Mavericks in the first year of the playoffs when they were like the number 1 and 8 seed. Like those 8 seed knocking out a first seed. Not say it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But let's say that 8 seed is the 76ers, right? And that's the Celtics reward. I almost think that's kind of better for the Celtics to play a really like good team early, to be like, yo, get them in the playoff mode instead of facing a little bit of an easier team, maybe like the Pacers or somebody else who are not going to give you as much trouble. But I kind of just going back to the original, in the East anyways, Boston's a favorite, but look at the East in general. They've played a lot of easier games compared to the games in the West. In the West, you're the final week of the playoff seeding, it's basically undecided for, there's teams that are going to make the playoffs or teams aren't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But other than that, as far as seeding from 1 to 8, you have no idea. The Celtics have like a 14-game lead on second place right now.
And the crazy thing is, on the West, the record that Golden State and the Lakers have, last year they would have been 3rd and 4th.
This year they would have been 5th and fighting for 5th and 4th right now. Right? So
that's crazy compared to last year to this year, how much stronger the West is usually always getting. It's always been a pretty strong conference anyway.
Teams that are 45 wins or more in the West, and there's 3+ teams with 50 wins.
Yeah.
There's only 1+ team with 50 wins in the East, and that's Celtics with 62. But you're beating up on easier teams to get there. If Celtics, you put them in the West and one of the other spots, right? And that's why I think like whoever is going to win the title is going to come from the West.
Yeah. And a lot of the East same teams from last year are making the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Whereas in the West, from numbers 8 to 11 from last year,
Yeah.
they're all in the playoffs. 8 to 11.
In the playoffs or out of the playoffs?
In the playoffs,
In the
now.
playoffs.
So they were 8 to 11. Like that's already like one team that was out for sure. 2 lost in the play-in tournament right there. So that's already like 3 teams right there minimum that wouldn't have been a playoff team for sure last year.
Yeah.
And then this year they're all in there. Like Orlando's in there. Who else was there? Timberwolves. Remember they were in like 10th. Thunder were right there. Pelicans were right there.
Thunder didn't even make it last year. They were in the
they
fighting
didn't
in the
make
playoff
it.
spot.
They were like the 11th one.
I see what you mean. They were in that spot. Now they moved up.
Now they're like all these teams flipped it.
Yep.
Timberwolves, Thunder, Pelicans, and I think there was somebody else that was there that was just at that cut point. And now this year, I guess
Mavericks would have
Memphis is the only one that went down.
Mavericks were somewhere at the bottom.
They were too. You're right. They were the other one. So now they're all of them are 100% in. Like a Pelicans, Mavericks, Thunder, and Timberwolves. All 4 are this time in the playoffs.
Dude, never mind. My bad. I misread it. There's 5+ teams with 50 wins. No, 6. 6 teams with 50 plus.
And a chance for maybe a 7th.
The 6th and 7th in the Western Conference right now would be 2nd and 3rd in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And even comparing this to last year, these guys have 45 wins each. They're at the bottom. Last year in the Western Conference, they would have been 4 and 5.
Oh, last year they would have been 4 and 5.
So with the same record they have right now, they would have been a 4 and 5 team. Whereas last year they both finished like 6 and 7 or something.
Here's another stat too. So the Rockets right now are 11th in the West, right? They would be the number 9 seed in the East, and they'd be in the playoffs, right? So think about that much. The 9th and 10th is just going to be like a first round slaughter.
Yeah.
Whoever they end up, and that's why like if the Celtics play them by.
Sucks for Houston to have to be a Western Conference team.
They almost made it too. They had a run there where they were like, it looks like they were going to give them some trouble, man. They were only like 1 game out, and then Tari Eason went on as like Warriors.
Yeah. He said, had to say some shit. Dude
wasn't even playing though.
Had to say some shit.
Dude was not even playing. At least play the game and then talk your shit. You can't be on the bench with an injury issue and you're talking shit. Ever since that point, Rockets shit the bed.
Yeah.
And the Warriors stepped up.
Yeah, Draymond Green said something, and he backed his shit up that after that guy they said the Warriors thing.
Dude, I mean, Draymond had a week there where it looked like he was gonna be old Draymond. He was getting into fights with the guys and shit. It looks like he's
sticking his tongue out.
He's sucking his foot, legs that are barely missing guys, right? Like, and he's got like guys in like not chokeholds, but like. It was like he got wrapped around the head and shit like that too, right? So
even the Lakers game, man, this guy hit like 6 threes or some shit.
He
went like 5 for 5 at one point.
He went 5 for 5, and he was letting everybody know he was 5 for 5.
Tongue hanging out.
He was doing this shit the whole time too. But that game was a tough game for Lakers to lose too.
It was very tough.
But the thing with the Lakers is that they usually tend to do a little better in the playoffs as long as AD and LeBron are healthy.
They have to get both.
Right? Not one.
Yeah.
Both have to be healthy. And, AD's had his injury scares.
AD, I think, is more of a must just because defensively they don't really have anybody in the paint. LeBron can, at least if he had to sit out a game or two, he could sit out. But AD is a must play right now.
I think LeBron just as important.
He is important for sure.
LeBron's one of their best 3-point shooters, dude.
No, he's definitely important, but it's like with those games that they've won without LeBron. Yeah. It's only because like AD's played in each one of those games, and defensively he's gotten like 4 or 5 blocks in those games.
He's huge. He's definitely a get that point.
Otherwise, they got nobody in the paint. Like the Jax guy's just too young.
Jax is like he's just too.
Wood's done. Like there's nobody else any big that they have. These guys honestly needed one more big to help.
And the problem with their other bigs is that like none of their bigs shoot threes. Like Anthony Davis at least is competent offensively that you can kind of work around his lack of.
And he'll hit 1 3.
But he's shooting like he just needs to shoot. And that's the one thing with his skill. Like you see guys like LeBron do it. You can work on your 3-point shooting because he's like 100%. He got a decent jumper. His free throw shoot. Look, you do shoot 9 for 10 today for free throws, or 10 of 11 now. Sorry, right? Like he can shoot free throws. He's got a shooting touch. Even guys like, let's say Marc Gasol. Yeah. Later in his career, he was able to be like around like a 36%, and not for you had to like respect the guy's 3-point shooting, and that just is gonna open up the floor for the rest of them too. Right?
Well, then that takes away, like if you're a big that can shoot threes, that means a big is guarding you at the 3-point line. That leaves the paint wide open
Wide
for
open.
anybody to come in and not be scared of the big anymore. Other than if fucking Wemby's there, he's probably the only guy you got to be.
That guy's gonna be unreal next year, dude.
Yeah, man.
Like, well, he's already like he's defensive player of the year conversation as a
100%.
And it's like too early to throw this around, but he gives like Tim Duncan, David Robinson, sorry, the OG. Then you got Tim Duncan. You got Kawhi in there a little bit, and then now you've got Wemby again, man. Like that is some elite company for this guy to be a part of, dude. And I can see him, I can see him like living up to the hype, man. This
so
is, like,
far, he's living up for sure.
This year could be his worst year for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
At least minimum 10. Maybe he drops off a little bit in his early 30s, but you're not going to see a worse version of Wemby than this year. And maybe next year, teams are, get a counter, but by the time he gets into year 3, he's going to figure this league out.
And once the team gets better too, it's just going to benefit him that much more too. Because if you have a brand new team, guys just don't know the role, the chemistry's not there, nobody's scared of any other person, so everybody's attacking Wemby. But if you open up the floor for him a tiny bit, even with another guy or two, that's just going to throw, I think, him in that stratosphere of like one of the greats. Like,
well, and that's the other thing too is like, they had Jeremy Sohan playing for them, like point guard. That experiment thankfully got ended. When he had a competent point guard, they were actually decent.
Yeah.
Even with him on the court, they were actually like a decent team. As soon as he went off the court, the team felt like we're shit. But that's the whole reason they were the worst team in the league last year, right? Yeah. And I think, exactly. Like they've got the cap space, they have draft picks, they've got the ability to make moves. The question is, how quickly do you want to make some of these moves? Because we've seen with guys like Luka, were the Mavericks better off slow playing it a little bit, or were they better off kind of, going all in? Like same thing happened with LeBron too, right? They thought LeBron was ready early to be a contender and they went in. Then you have other teams like OKC, for example, even the Pelicans, right? They had these superstars, they traded away assets, and then they were able to get, and that's the thing with the Spurs, right? They've got first round picks, they've got future first round picks, so they seem to be doing it the right way. I don't think you can rush it as far as next year goes. Like Wemby's going to take the leap, continue to make smart moves, the last thing you want to do is to be in a position where you're trading first round picks just to make Wemby happy, right? Like build the team up. You've got a year or two. Your team's not going to be good. The West is stacked.
A lot of the OGs are going to be gone by that time. Give them time to kind of get out of the league too.
You never, obviously OKC is going to be a problem for the next few years, right? Lakers, Warriors, they're getting older.
Yeah.
Spurs, not Spurs, sorry. Clippers are getting older. Who knows the Dallas Mavericks going to end up
They're getting older too.
Phoenix is getting older, right? Yeah. Zion, his injury concerns, and Brandon Ingram and his injury concerns. Yeah. Memphis has a shot to maybe come back, right? But you don't rush it is all I gotta say for Spurs fans. So don't rush it. The West is stacked. We have enough issues.
Straight up.
What else? I was gonna say we kind of alluded to this earlier, but Philly right now, right?
Yeah.
Embiid's back.
I'm
really hoping they play the Celtics. 'Cause I hate the Celtics.
Yeah.
So I hope the Celtics play a team they really don't want to play, even though it's probably gonna be good for the Celtics to kind of get in the game, because you saw what happened when they played a team like the Hawks. They kind of let the gas, foot off the gas. But yeah, dude, if Embiid's if you're a first, second, third place team, your reward for finishing in the top 3 would be playing Embiid. I mean, they have a slim shot, I think, at getting even up to 5.
Yeah.
So depending on, because Cavaliers have been shitting the bed the last few years as well. There's some big games that are going to go on today that'll kind of help figure out what's going to happen with Philly over the next little bit too. But I mean, I don't think you'd want to play Philly at all in the first round. Not even a little bit.
No.
Even though, a second round you probably want to play them because obviously, they haven't done shit out of the second round in so long now. But dude, they beat Magic today.
They got it. They had to get that win.
They beat them by 12, so they got that out of the way. And now they're 40. Both Magic and 76ers are tied record-wise.
And they play Nets last game, which should be a closeout win.
Yeah, and I think Magic plays Bucks, if I'm not mistaken, for their last game. So right now, 5th, 6th, and 7th are all tied with 46 wins. And 2 of those teams are not going to be able to do the play-in. So I think who's 76ers final game against then?
That was Nets.
They play Nets, so they play the Nets. Okay, so that should be an easy.
That should be a win for them at least.
And then 7. Who do the Pacers play? the Hawks. They should be able to win. And then you got the Magic. Probably, I think they're playing Bucks.
Yeah.
Depending on what the Bucks have to play for that final game, early game. It might not mean anything.
Yeah.
Depending on what happens if the Knicks can. No, Knicks won. Wow. Knicks won, and so Bucks have to win that game, and Knicks have to win their game, and Knicks come into second place.
Damn.
And Knicks play the Bulls, so that should be another win for them too. But yeah, and then Miami. So it looks like right now it's gonna be Miami versus one of Philly, Indiana, or Orlando for one play-in matchup, and then it's obviously set with Chicago versus the nice block. Was it foul? Damn. Chicago versus Hawks for the other one. So that should be like that's gonna be a terrible game to watch. But hey, play-in is play-in, man.
Yeah,
dude, the play-in.
It'll be fun. It's just fun to watch because at least the game matters so much. It's like an NFL game almost. It's not like you get best of 3, best of 5, or best of 7. Literally, you're getting one game, and you still have to win your second game too. That doesn't mean you're just in the playoffs.
Yeah,
you get that one win. I guess it's best of 2 really because you get one game and then you gotta in the second game.
You know what? Seeing how everything is kind of gone, I would love it for the NHL to go back to a 1 versus 8 and start incorporating the the play into theirs because they have 32 teams. NBA has 30, so NHL that would imagine the NHL with the 1 versus 8, the top 6 in there.
Well, I like the NHL did is they saw they were kind of like. The viewership was going down. It was again like this. It was just an Eastern and a Western conference. I like the divisional style of bringing the NFL soccer style into it.
I want the NFL style.
Yeah. Or but it is basically the NFL style, the divisions, right?
No. I want 8 divisions.
8
with
divisions
4
instead
teams
of 4.
Each. Instead of having these 4 massive divisions, right?
It's better having...
Yeah, that's right.
It's way better having their divisions. And I think that's one thing that basketball honestly needs to think about and put in.
But basketball's gotten so popular with the play-in and everything else. The one thing I like about basketball, I get some of the rivalries are different.
Yeah,
they're not like those divisional, but the best teams are always get into the playoffs.
But their ratings suck. That's the issue with ratings, the NBA.
But the issue is other than the ratings have improved though. They've gotten better over the years. NHL hasn't. But
NHL ever since they did now it's the 4 divisions or whatever the heck, even though there's still a lot, they've seen an increase just because it kind of changes how now different teams are going to end up playing.
NBA's seen a bigger increase than what the NHL has.
Oh yeah.
But what I think is honestly the thing with the NBA is they've gone to the other end where the divisional matchups don't mean shit.
Yeah.
They've gone so far away from it that it doesn't matter who's in what division, which sometimes is more interesting, sometimes it's less interesting. Because the thing with hockey is, though, they're big on the divisional rivalries, right? So it'd be kind of weird if the Canucks had a rivalry with Dallas. You'd rather have it in your own thing. That's why I think if you're the NHL, you have 32 teams just like football does.
Yeah.
If you had a 4-team division with Seattle, same concept. Top 4 make the playoffs, or top 4 are the top 4 seeds, and then you get 4 wild cards in each.
Yeah.
So the second best place... the next 4 teams are all in division. So then you'd go back to division matchups would matter. And if you would still go back to the 1 to 8. And then if you wanted to throw in the play-in on top of that and really make shit interesting. Because I think honestly, other than the NFL, dude, women's basketball had higher ratings than any other sporting event other than obviously football or the World Cup. Or
higher than NBA, man.
Right? You higher than the NBA, way higher than the NHL, right? The draft, the NFL draft has higher ratings than the NBA and the NHL when it comes to games, right? So you're not going to touch the NFL.
Yeah.
But if you're the NHL, for example, soccer's coming, women's basketball has already kind of surpassed them in some ways or another, NBA is always going to have that hold in the US. They're always going to be popular, but I don't think the NHL is going to have that.
No.
So if I for them, I would start switching things up and trying different things. Dude, the play-in would make more teams in the hunt at the end of the season. Look at how well it's done for the NBA, right? Yeah. Obviously, you're going to have those years when you've got the Heat versus, not the Heat versus Bulls, but the Bulls versus Hawks for 9 and 10.
Yeah.
But you're also going to have years like this year where it could be LeBron versus Steph Curry for 9 and 10 too, right?
And you realistically only have the 5 teams that don't make it.
5 teams, right?
So 5 teams at the bottom that are 100% not going to make it.
Yep.
But 10 teams that have a chance. And out of these 10, obviously 2 are going to get booted out. So in the end, 7 teams don't make playoffs at all, while you got the regular 8 that do make the teams.
And look at what you said earlier when the 8 to 11 teams all ended up making a jump the next year, right? Because they were dealing with playoff games at the end of the year where you had to play like 9, 8, 9, like the 9, 10 games actually meant something because you're trying to get into the playoffs, right? And that's the thing with NHL is that if you're trying to create more interest, the easiest way to do it is have more teams in the hunt at the end of the year.
Especially because that's the only way to grow some markets.
Yeah.
Because if you're a market that never makes it in the playoffs, your market is just slowly going down because nobody gives a fuck about going to watch a team. Look at how we kind of gave up on the Canucks.
Mm-hmm.
But now that, like, you know, a team starts doing well, that's all it could take to ignite a team. And say a team's shitty, but they get into a play-in like a Hawks.
Yeah.
Atlanta. That's a big city. That's a lot of money that the city is going to be able to make. From people spending it, going to the arena, helping the team. Now, just by going to the play-in and having a chance to make it in the playoffs, it's that much of a boost rather than being like, hey, guess what? Top 8 teams made it. Bulls and Hawks, you guys go sit down.
You'd have no interest in. And the thing with the interest with the play-in is that it also makes a seed matchup between the 1 and all the way down to 6 interesting because you don't want to be a 7th or 8th seed now.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to be a team who's fighting in the top 6. Whereas sometimes with like even with NBA like NHL, right, you kind of already the teams and matchups are set. The excitement isn't there. Look at the NBA. We got the final week of the season, play-in matchups are on the line. Top 6 matchups, home seedings, all these different things that we're talking about. So, you know, I think we kind of went back to the NHL here a little bit, but I think NHL I would love it if they went back to that and added the play-in capacity to it, the wild cards and everything. I mean, we can talk about that more another day too, but yeah, what else do you want to talk about for the NBA here? Is there anything else you want to kind of chat about?
I think we hit on everything. The teams that are going to make it, not make it.
Yeah.
Teams who've taken those big jumps, obviously, from last year to this year. So that's going to be fun to see. I don't know. It's going to be exciting, man. This Western Conference is just going to be crazy to watch.
It's the playoffs are probably the one matchup like you know all the talk about like you know all these moves like the Bucks made, the Clippers made, Suns, Steph Curry and Lakers, you know, in their like LeBron and Steph Curry in their like twilight years. Yeah. Half the teams are going to be done in 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Half the teams are already going to be out. Phoenix Suns could be out. LeBron could be out. Steph Curry could be out. Like, you don't know who's going to be in, who's going to be out.
Straight up.
This is the time where the offseason, like the Cavaliers even, right? They're going to have to sign Mitchell for his eligible for an extension.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what kind of team are they? Are they, like, you know, Mobley hasn't progressed to where he's supposed to go as well, and they did fine without him too. So, you know what? These next, like, couple months is where, like, you figure out it plays into the offseason, right? What teams did well in the playoffs, what teams didn't. You know, Thunder, for example, if they make a huge playoff run, right? Maybe, and they've got all these draft picks now, too. Do you have, like a bazillion first-round picks? What happens if you're, like, I don't know, Embiid?
Yeah.
Maybe, right? Like, I don't know who else they would want to sign, what kind of other players they would need. To be honest, they would be a great fit for a guy like OG Anunoby on that team, right?
Yeah.
You know, Josh Giddey is another player I'm looking at. We can talk about those guys with you know, Giddey has had his issue shooting this year too, right? Like, imagine if he shits it in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Their Thunder are gonna be like, do we have to trade Josh Giddey? Mm-hmm. Right? Is Kawhi gonna be healthy come playoff time? Can Luka and Kyrie Irving coexist and win multiple playoff rounds? Right?
Straight up.
Do the Kings have to make moves? Are they done? Are they like stagnated? Did the Suns give up too much? Or Curry and LeBron no longer have the same juice that they used to? Right? There's so many storylines coming out of the West that I can't wait to figure out. You know, it could be like LeBron and Curry. They have, you know, they both make it to the second round all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know how it's going to all play out at the end of the day, man. So I can't wait to see how the final week plays out. And the playoffs, we'll talk about it when we'll do a nice big podcast before that as well, man, once we get the final seeding sorted out. I think right now it's only Clippers and Mavericks are the only first round series that's guaranteed, I think, on both sides. All right, well, that wraps up the NBA edition of this week's podcast. Do you want to talk about? Do we have much to talk about NFL this week? Probably not, right?
No.
Yeah, we can. Other than probably the only two things, the Stephon Diggs trade. Yeah. They amended that contract, second rounder. Bills are a very interesting team right now, man. They gave all these guys that they like had to let go. I think they did it a 1 year too late compared to what the Chiefs did.
Man, they stacked Houston up, man. That's going to be a fun team to
Houston's
watch.
going to be stacked, dude. They've made some other moves this year, too. They got the coach of the year. They got CJ Stroud, right?
Yeah. That's going to be a fun team to watch.
And then you've got the draft coming up around the corner. We'll talk about a little bit more about that as well. And then, the Rajee Rice situation for Chiefs might be the only way for other teams to actually beat them.
Mm-hmm.
He was their only kind of lone offensive star, other than obviously Kelsey. But other than Kelsey, there was nobody else that even stepped up. So, yeah, we'll talk some golf and UFC maybe this week as well, and then that'll be it.
Yep.
All right, guys, thank you.
Peace.